This video continues from the previous. Okay, so the next thing I did was I drew this roughly quickly in 3D and created my different levels in 3D so I could begin to get a feel for the massing. This is all I'm looking at this point. I haven't designed anything. I haven't defined anything. I just want to get a feel for the massing. This is not to scale. And as you're going to see, once I move past this, this is off. But it does begin to help me identify where the things are going, what they do, and make any adjustments that I need to. For instance, I didn't notice in my flat plans that I have very active spaces over here above sleeping, napping spaces over here. So I need to consider what to do. And there's some things you can do. You could move them around, but I don't want to do that because if I lose these, this is a great view out the window, right? These are great views out the windows. This wouldn't be sleeping anymore. This would become viewing, possibly. View into this area. And then I realize I've got this void back here where I haven't really put anything. That could become an entire sleeping tower because it's back there in the corner. And I can make that separate and thicker so that it, even though it would be adjacent to these spaces, it might actually be quieter. I can also do the same here, right? I can make this platform thicker and insulated to keep these platforms from being really loud. And I might also consider changing this from what it is, which is sleeping, to a more active space, maybe one of these green ones where it's just lounging, or allow it to be viewing as well. Because cats, when they're looking at animals outside the window, get very active. They chatter, they switch their tail, sometimes they move around. Plus also getting up and down on this, that's another consideration. Are they going to jump? So I have to keep that in mind. So a lot of things I can do, okay? So now it's just got me thinking about the massing. It's got me thinking about what 3D space have I allocated for this? And I drew on top of it. Oops, I thought I lined this up, but I guess not. Okay, so I drew on top of it. I started to segregate out the parts because remember, I'm going to turn these into giant cat toys or abstracted cat toys. And so I wanted to start to get a feel for how big things are going to be. Now, I did not draw it to scale, as you can see. But when I went back and I said, okay, my space is 7 feet deep by 5 feet wide, how big are things? And the one thing that I had to have a definitive size to it was a litter box. Because a litter box has to fit in that space. And then it needs space around it. So roughly a 24 by 24 enclosed space could ideally fit what we need. And the others are roughly that we're going to fit that 24 by 24, which I like because it now gives me the area to do something roundish. Because I think all of my shapes are going to end up being round. And then it leaves me with a leftover space of 5 feet by 3 feet for play, which is, we can leave toys out here. This is a good area for playing around with toys. So carpet can go under here. We can have a 7 foot by 6 foot rug. And I think it's starting to come together. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these massings individually and begin to carve them. There are different ways that you can put things together, additive or subtractive. You can add in what you want, or you can subtract what you don't want. I kind of tend to go back and forth and do both. And for me, it's more of a massaging flexibility process. Not everybody works the same way. So, I don't want to tell you there's a right way or wrong way to work. But I'm now going to kind of take these very rough sketches and use them to define further my massing. You don't want to show these to clients. These are very rough. They're very crude. All they are aids to help you visualize. Because I can't see all this in my head, and most people can't. Some people can. They can do the whole thing in their head. but you still want to be able to put it down on paper to document what you did, to talk about it with other people, get feedback from people that are colleagues. You guys can send this to me for feedback, but you just never want to show this level of work to a client because it's very crude and very rough. It's too crude and too rough to show to clients. It's very quick. I spent seconds putting this together, less than a minute, doing the drawing and putting on the color. And then maybe another minute just kind of thinking, and a couple more minutes thinking, and then adding the dimensions. And it was just my brain vomiting on the page. Would not show that to a client. I just want to make sure that's made clear. Because if they see this and it's very crude and very rough like this, it's going to scare them. So don't show them this. Okay, so this is the basics, the beginning for me of how I begin to visualize my massing. And then I'm going to take each one of these. I now have 5 different components here. I'm considering breaking this into, I like odd numbers. You know, you don't have to have odd numbers. But I'm considering breaking this into another smaller piece. I don't know if 4 feet is going to be too wide. It's kind of big. Maybe not. But so what I want to do is just now look at these individually and start to explore and think about them as individuals, because I can now see where they're going to occupy space. Another thing I want to think about is there's no rhythm. This is boring. This is 18 inches. Everything's the same height. They're all roughly the same footprint for the most part, except for 2 variations. So I'm still working on a grid though, so that's kind of cool. But I also want to start to break out of that. I want to start to move beyond the grid. The grid helped me get an understanding and an overview, but now I need to start to refine it. And that's one of the things you start to do in design, right? So conceptual design, this is the end of, well, no, it's not. I'm going to go one step further. But this is towards the end of conceptual design. And I'm just kind of trying to come up with the basics. And then it'll go further from there. So I'm going to stop here and I will show you more in the next video.